Mm. Whew. Hello, hello, and welcome back to the response. I am your host, Miss Carter, and tonight I have with me Mr. Radio Raheem. How are you, Raheem?
What's going on, y'all? My name is Radio Rah. Um, Tonight, the show is not gonna be like the normal topic show this evening. We're gonna have two special guests. We will have the director Kristen Lovell of HBO's The Stroll and cast member CAREY Smith, who will discuss the history of The Stroll and how imperative it was for sex workers in their time.
Okay. And before we get into any of that, I just want to, have a moment of silence for one of our siblings that was slain over the weekend. And the community really seems to be shaken by this. And we are sending our condolences here, at the response to the family of O'Shea. And, our hearts and our prayers and our thoughts go out, to him and his family. There's also a trans woman killed in the Bronx recently. I cannot. Stress how much these things affect our community when they happen. So I just want to send love and prayers out to the families of the individuals lost. It's really unfortunate.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
So you want to can we do a moment of silence for?
Yes, can we please have a moment of silence for our slain brothers and sisters. Okay.
All
So,
right.
yes, we are, going to move ahead, and I think we have a clip here, of the movie The Stroll that premiered on HBO Max. So let's run that clip.
Do you remember when we used to walk down here and all the neighbors used to stare at us and we used to be
And we would just be
one
pumping.
way? They would look at us like we were circus freaks, but you could tell they enjoyed it.
The minute I got off on 14th Street, you could hear the clickety clack of the hill.
The light, the shadows.
We called 14th Street the Stroll, and that was our turf.
Some people choose sex work because they want to. Being a trans woman in the 80s, a lot of us did not have a choice.
People were not hiring people that looked like me.
Trans life in general, it was difficult. I wanted to make people understand the reality of our lives through storytelling.
The one issue today that obsesses New Yorkers: crime.
The trannies were out on the street 24/7. It was really a very bad situation.
I mean, they think I'm out here to murder people instead of have sex with them for money.
We don't know who's who. Everybody's a client.
I actually gave fellatio to a man who was a cop. And after I was done doing his deed, he arrested me.
Whether it was from the police, whether John, there was a lot of violence.
I almost got killed by a John who dragged me for half a block in his car.
We were on the front line with the gay and lesbian community, but you're not doing anything to help me from getting attacked. We knew we were freaks to them.
I can't even believe it. It's like the things we had to do.
The trans community has been in survival mode forever. It's important that we all get an opportunity to thrive.
We fought to be where we are.
The system never gave us resources. We created the resources.
We have always been last. That's not gonna happen anymore.
You owe it to every trans woman before you and everyone after you to keep pushing.
We were pushed out of the neighborhood years ago. I was determined to make a film about the Stroll before we're gone.
Making TikToks?
No, we're talking about our lives out here before this became this.
I remember that.
Oh, he said, I remember that. I'm sure you do. What's your name? You still got it.
Mm. You know, just watching this, and as we come back, we are joined with the director of Stroll and one of the cast members. And I just want you all to know, just as a trans woman of color, let me take my shades off while I talk to you, how powerful this story is and how touching the imagery is and all of the things that we've seen there. I just want to say thank you so much for sharing the story. You know, it's never really easy being trans, but times have gotten easier in a lot of ways. And if it weren't for, women like you who were out there doing the things, you made a lot of things possible if you know it or not. You know, a lot of the things and a lot of the liberties that we have today is because of the women like you who got out there and fought and went through the struggle. So now the struggle is a little bit easier for the girls that came behind you. And I just want to thank you for that, and thank you for telling the story and being free and candid about everything. So let's go ahead and the director is here. I want you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you and this story.
Hi everybody. My name is Kristen Lovell. I'm the director of The Stroll, or one of the directors of The Stroll. Um, oh my God, I don't even know where to begin. There's just so much. You know, after the events of The Stroll, of leaving The Stroll, I did end up working at Sylvia's Place Shelter, which was an emergency shelter in Hell's Kitchen. That was the dying wish of Sylvia Rivera. And so I did that for 10 years after the events of being on the stroll, and then got into filmmaking. And I was just determined to share that story because, you know, during my time on the stroll and when I started working at Sylvia's Place, there was this, people were looking for content and trying to share the narrative of homeless youth in New York City, right? And every time I would see the finalized product, I was never satisfied. And I had to do a lot of processing and thinking about why that was, why I didn't like what I was seeing. And part of it was me. I was seeing myself portrayed in this manner, and it was just like, I can't continue to live life this way. I have to make significant changes in my life to move forward. It wasn't easy, at that time, it was still hard to find employment. And I thank Sylvia Rivera and her legacy work because if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have had a job and to hold and maintain a job for over 10 years, if I didn't, have those experiences, I don't know who I would be today, So I owe a lot of my life and the direction that I went into because of leaders like Sylvia Rivera and Marsha P. Johnson and their work before me.
Okay. Okay. Rod, do you have any questions for the director?
Yes, I do. So I wanted to ask you, what kind of clientele did you experience the most during your time of sex work?
Me?
Yes.
I mean, it was a hodgepodge. I mean, a lot of the dates would come from New Jersey. I would, there was a point of being smart on the stroll to make sure that if I got in a car, that they were New Jersey plates and not New York plates, you know. Um, it varied, night to night it varied. One night you can have that $1,000 date, some nights you may have to take a walk in and do some collecting. You know what I mean? It really depended on the evening and what was going on.
His name was Bill.
there was a Bills and Bobs and
Yeah,
Bob
but the
Regulus,
$1,000 date, his name that was Bill. The girls used to
John.
run. They used to run and be racing for him.
I mean, I was having this conversation with some younger girls about how I miss the old days of working the stroll. It was easier in terms of you knew that you were gonna make your money that night, you know. It was easier to interact and see how a person is before you get in a car or go to a hotel with them, and the transition, right, of like early internet days and dating and screening clients and stuff. And you know, it it's a interesting how the dynamics play out now and trying to do sex work. It's definitely not the same and it's not as easy, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Bring I want to bring Carrie into the conversation. Carrie, you were a part of the stroll, and we got to see you throughout the stroll, and sharing your experience. I kind of just want you to introduce yourself and touch on your experience and how it really was for you and how that experience shaped and mold your life to this day.
Well, um, being on 14th Street, it was a it was an experience that I will never ever forget. And it's an experience that I will carry with me for the rest of my life because I started out on 14th Street in the 90s and started out on 14th Street in the 90s and it was just an amazing place to be. Like we said in the documentary, the sisterhood was there. We had each other's back, and to me, like I've said in other interviews, like it was a majestic place. Like my not to go to the end, but when I had went to jail and I came home after doing 6 years, like all my life, 14th Street, when I did time in jail or whatever was happening in my life that kept me away from 14th Street, every time I was done with the situation, I always kept coming back to 14th Street. And then at the end of time, the last time, which is when I came out of jail and I came back to 14th Street and there was no 14th Street, it really hurt me, because I was a diehard 14th Street girl. And it broke my heart. I was like, how could they take this away from us? Like, it was just hurtful. And till this day, I carry that pain because I wish I was like, not to say that I wish that I see people doing sex work, but everybody's free to do what they want to do. But I wish like I was one of the older girls now coming out there and the young girls talking to me and I could give them pointers on what to do or what not to do and how to carry themselves.
How
So
did you
just to make it loud and clear, 14th Street meant so much to me.
Okay, how did cope with that after coming out the last time? How did cope, or what was your, you know, plan of action after you came to 14th Street and you saw that there was no more 14th Street? What did you do from there?
Well, when I first started 14th Street, like I the thing about me is when I came out at 15, I wanted to transition right away. And back then, like we didn't have doctors like we do now that were giving out hormone pills. They had like one doctor in Bed-Stuy named Dr. Gardner that was sometimes giving certain girls hormone pills, Primerins and stuff like that. But when I came home, and again, when I was younger as well, I've always wanted to work, but I had like older trans women on the stroll that told me, baby, you're a trans woman. If you want to go all the way, like you're never gonna find employment. So I stuck with that for a long time. But I've always had that urge in me just to want to work. But um the thing is, I've always had that urge in me that I want to work. But the thing is, when I came back from jail out of prison after doing 6 years, I started doing sex work, but I started doing it on the internet.
Okay. Oh,
So back then in 2015, when I came home, the internet was a place for me to work at that time.
were the police, and because I know it stuck out to me. One of the things about the stroll was, how the police would come and sweep and stuff like that. Was the internet any better? Either of you can answer this. Like, where would the cops, do a lot of stings, on the internet, and come to hotel rooms or come to your apartment or whatever, and was it just as risky, or did the internet provide a blanket of safety in a way?
I mean, to
To
me, it
me,
depends.
you want to answer, Christian? Go ahead.
Yeah, for me, it depended. I've heard of a lot of girls, like I was always on the street and that's where I would get caught up, right?
Hmm.
But I heard girls, I've run into girls who were doing it from their home, right? And there would be a sting operation and they would drag them out of their house. For me, I was already on the street, so it was either get me on the street or, you know, that's how you're gonna get me. So it was a little bit easier to maneuver on the internet because I'm going to the client's spot, their home, or to
Hmm.
their, hotel or whatever the case may be. I mean, the internet made it convenient to have your clients visit your house, but that comes with its own, you know, dangers. And there, was a trans woman that I've known. There's a few of them now that I've known that have been murdered in their own homes. You know what I mean? Inviting strangers into their home. And now the danger risk is even higher because you don't know what type of crazy you're going to get now they know where you live. You know what I mean? Now they can stalk you, and then you really can't evade or escape the danger. So it comes with its own levels of danger.
So I have a question for either Carrie or Kristen. Were there any males doing the stroll as well?
Like working?
You
Yes.
said,
Yes. Were there any
If they're
males working the stroll when you guys were out there? Were there any males doing the stroll as well?
well, there was a male stroll on Christopher Street in Greenwich. So
Hmm.
there was a male stroll they had where the guys they used to make their money and stuff just down the block. But they just had like a little block and Christopher Street. We had a whole side street, front street. We had more than they did to work with.
Hmm. Was there a big divide in that time between the trans women and the gay men? Was there, did you all feel supported by the gay men in that time? Just say, being out on the stroll, or whatever may be happening, that you feel like that they kept an eye out, or they had you all's back, or was it just you all?
Well, for the most part, because we were kind of segregated in terms, or sometimes we would, interact with one another. Sometimes there are friends. That was called the Butch Queen Stroll on West 10th, you know. Sometimes they'll walk up or whatever, or if we're hanging out, it really depends. But I also understood that it was a lot easier to sex work as a Butch Queen than it was a
Oh,
trans woman.
okay.
They barely got arrested, and we
Really?
got arrested all the time.
Was it because the trans women were more visible? Was it because it was more? of you all, or was it just because they targeted the trans girls?
It was because there was more of us and they were targeting the trans community.
Okay. Yeah. I could see that. Um, do you
And
all
then I wanted to say real quick,
go
sometimes there
ahead.
were I had like my little Book Queen fan club that used to come with me to the stroll, and
Mhm.
they would like stand behind me while I'm on the corner and flashing or doing whatever I was doing. So there was a little support back then. Sometimes like I would like hold my purse before I get in the car. I'll be right back, and so there's a little camaraderie. It was sometimes.
So
Okay.
yes, can I just piggyback off of that?
The Butch Queens looked out
Um,
for the girls better back then than they do today.
yeah, so yes, that is true. And also there were butches out there as well at the time, because there were no trans men, visible trans men, let me say, at the time. But being supportive of the girls, like Carrie said, hold my bag, hold my jacket, and just making sure the girls were safe while they were doing their thing and waiting for them to come back. And because you did that, they made sure you were good.
Yeah. I could see that. When did you all notice the shift in what was known as transsexuals to into what we now call trans women or women of trans experience? When did you all start to notice like hey, it seems to be getting easier, or now there's the doctors, or now there's surgeries, like we didn't have this or that. When did you really notice the difference or the elevation in what trans women could do?
Obama. When Obama became president and we came into the 2010s, and then there was the trans tipping point, Laverne Cox on Netflix, and that really like put the trans conversation into the living room. Let's not forget, Laverne and what she was doing before the Caitlyn Jenner experience.
Mhm.
I just want to throw that out there.
Mhm.
Laverne was on a track, and then we got Caitlyn Jenner, but you know, that was when you started to see the differences. Like it became more pronounced then. Um, but still, like I always say this too. It's like, there's this increased visibility and, trans is now in the American living room. However, visibility does not equal equity. Okay.
Definitely.
And there's still a long way to go in terms of, yes, sex work is work. That's fine, right? But we also need doctors, we need lawyers, we need other forms of professionals within our community so that we can take care of one another, especially when they won't do it. We can't rely upon somebody else to take care of our community. We have to be able to do that ourselves.
Yes. And I feel like sex work has funded so much, within the community, within sectors of the community and ballroom. I feel like a lot of ballroom was built on sex work. The mothers of those houses were the ones who, built ballroom and bought effects and took the kids in, and, just all of that. And I think I absolutely agree with you. Yeah, we've been making it happen, and sex work made that happen, but it's time for other things. And now sex work is so competitive. It's like everybody wants to, do it. You hear everybody's their first go-to plan is, oh, I'm gonna get a OnlyFans, not considering the marketing and all of that stuff that goes into what it takes to be successful in sex work. What do you feel like or some solutions, or what are some more things that we need from our community partners and allies to mobilize our community more. Even though we're at a point where we are having gender affirming surgeries and all of this, but we're still fighting for adequate housing and equal employment and all of these things. What do you feel that we need to progress to the next level?
Well, I think we need more training. I think, the ability to finish school without persecution for transitioning. You know what I mean? Because there's a lot of systemic things that are still in place that hinder us. You know what I mean? Like, look at how the conversation every day on the news is like, oh, trans this, and some people believe even that we have more rights than them at this point. It's so ridiculous. I mean, there's so much education that needs to happen, right? I mean, like, here's my thing. Like, right now, they're looking for, can I curse? They're looking for fucking aliens, okay? But they
Hmm.
can't accept the trans people that are here on Earth. Like,
Hmm.
it's just boggles my mind. Like, I'm glad the conversation shifted to aliens now. At least they can get off of us. That's the distraction. But like, we need these things like, like in the early days when they needed the funding to support these programs to give us pizza and a Metro card. These are the things that they can put into to making sure that we have trainings and funds for education and for those that want to get out of sex work and feel that, like if you watch the documentary Kokomo City, and you see Coco there who just was recently murdered. And she said it in the film. You have to watch the film, watch Kokomo City. But it is like that's all she knew. And for a time, that was all I knew. You come out of this as a teenager and now you're an adult. You don't know what to do with yourself. You don't know what to do with your life. And because you're cute and passable, oh, you'll always make a coin. Okay, but what happens when you get tired of the service? You know what I mean? What happens when you want to do something else in life, and but you spent X amount of times wrapped up into sex work? You know what I mean? So it's like even if you do, I call it angel, right? You have to do two things. You by day, schoolgirl, and getting that education up, and then at night, if you gotta go sex work, then you gotta do what you gotta go do.
Okay.
And make sure you come back home safe.
So I have a question about the documentary. Was it hard for you to get the girls to come on and tell their story?
Yes and no. I think like there were other people that I spoke to. Some people wanted to, some people didn't. I remember when I found Carrie or somebody pointed me in the direction, and I was so excited and I was so happy that she agreed. Egypt, LaBeija, I was so happy because these were girls that I would see every night, and it was imperative, like those that were in my sphere of the stroll to have them there, so like having Egypt fantastic because I would see her every night. I seen her struggles, she seen mine. Carrie, I would bump into every night. She says I was a little standoffish even though I wasn't because I said hi every night.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
and it's that like it's just making and then like my relationship with Izzy, aka Cashmere, and Elizabeth, those were my sisters. That's who I shed tears with and decided to transition with and lived with and everything, take my first hormone shot, and we were in that shelter situation together. So I had to make sure that it was all the people that were in my life or impacted my life or were in my sphere, you know, in the film. And I'm so happy that it all fell into place because there were some people that were supposed to that pulled out or so it was. And a lot of people didn't want to rehash it. For some people, it was that traumatic.
Mm. I
Okay,
could, yeah,
that's understandable.
yeah, I could, see that. I want to ask you, Carrie, and I know that you have seen the elevation of what sex work is. What advice would you give a young trans woman who is coming into, her on and her transition is saying that, hey, I want to do sex work and this is what I want to do. What advice would you give to her?
What advice would I give to her? I would tell her if that's what she really want to do, just make sure you're safe, keep yourself safe, protect yourself at all costs. And if you're gonna do it, like if you're gonna do, somebody just told me this recently, and I love this. If you're gonna do something in life, whatever it is, and you feel like you're good at what you do, you master it. You master it, you make it work for you, you make your coins. Like, don't go out there wasting your time. Let it be worth it. So that would be my advice. But most
Okay.
importantly, be safe and protect yourself.
I want to ask about, sex work and drug use. I want to know how at what percentage do you think the two go hand in hand? Like what percentage of individuals who do sex work do you feel are going to engage in drug use?
I,
And
I
why? And why?
can I just say real quick? I want to say everything in life is a coping mechanism that
Mm-hmm.
I've learned. And when I was on the stroll back then, I got I got turned out to cocaine from a client because I was just a weed smoker at 14, and I got turned out to cocaine. Then another couple of years, a client turned me out to crack cocaine. But a lot of my drug use was because I couldn't fully transition to the woman that I wanted to be, or I couldn't get out of the life, or so I felt like that to me was a coping mechanism. The drugs soothed it. When I came home 8 o'clock in the morning, sunlight out the yellow cabin. I got home and I took my bump up my nose. Like it made me feel good. But honestly, when it was done, it was like I gotta go back to this life. And so I feel like drug addiction plays a big part, but not every girl use drugs either. I don't
Mm-hmm.
wanna be misconstrued, but for me, it played a big part because it was the guilt and shame and some of the pain of what I was going through on the stroll.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I get that. I want to go back to our director, and I just want to say, being an artist myself, like the story again was like very touching. I watched with one of my girlfriends, and we was sit there, and it was like very emotional for us. Even now, even talking to you is a bit emotional for me, just knowing that um historically the place we have been put in as trans women and the things that it took to survive. I want to know, what was the what's the end goal for you for putting this documentary out, and what can we look forward to you from the future? Will there be more films? Will you expand on this story a bit more? I think a lot of us are just excited to hear our history. You and this story. This is our history as trans people. So we're excited to hear these things and see these things. And I think myself and a lot of other people want to know. Will you share more of your storytelling with us?
I'm in that process now. Like the stroll was very time consuming over a course of 2.5 years. It was like once, it was actually longer than the 2.5 years. It was like, of course, I was documenting my life on the stroll when I was actively on the stroll, right? And then there was the desire or the need to tell my own story. So that took me a number of years, 15 years to be exact. Um, so then getting to the final 2 years, 2.5 years of the stroll and working on it, it was a lot. And I literally jumped right out of picture lock into Sundance Film Festival and then the whirlwind of, premiering at different festivals. And so this past month, it's what the month of July, I've just been kind of like just processing it all, and trying to figure out next directions and next steps. You know, um, it's a lot to make a movie. It really is. It really is a lot to make a movie. And I don't know. They always ask a director, what is their next project? There are more stories to tell. Yes, there's lots of things that didn't make it into the stroll. Um, but just figuring out those stories, figuring out the history. I love history and, you know, figuring out new things and stuff. I have some things on my mind, and maybe I may even take a career change. I'm working in documentary film now, but I may want to go on to do narratives or episodics, in nonfiction films.
Mm-hmm.
So, time will tell. The industry right now is kind of all over the place due to the strikes. Um, so right now I'm just trying to like process it all and enjoy the reception of the film because, since the film's release, I get all day, every day, the most beautiful messages from people who've enjoyed the film or have learned something from the film. Um, but yeah, I'm certain in knowing me there will be other things coming.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just have one last thing I want to ask both ladies. Is there, what would you tell your younger self back then? Is there anything you would change or any advice you would give your younger self?
I would. I need to learn to be a little bit easier on myself. And that even though it was hard then, but it was you, the younger one, the younger self, who was so strong and endured so much. And that is the version of me that brought me to making this film. you know, Thinking about the days that the doors on your cell closed and thinking about the reasons why you're in there, the most silliest reasons, you know, just be easier, be more kind to yourself and love yourself more.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing.
I would tell myself, I don't regret anything I've been through, but because it made me the woman I am today, and now in my life, I'm so happy where I'm at in my life. But I would probably say just to love yourself a little more, to love yourself a little more. But so many, so many doors has opened for me since then, and I feel like, and so many doors has shut for me, and I feel like they were shut for a reason. And I'm, I don't want to get emotional, but I'm thankful to Christian for reaching out for me and for me telling my story. After years, I just got my first apartment. I'm in my own apartment now. I work at Vocal New York. I just been promoted to the front desk manager. So it's like my life has did a total 360. But it's sad that it took all these years for me to get here. But at the same time, I'm so happy and delighted to see where my life is going. And like I said, I would have told myself, Carrie, just to love yourself a little more.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing. That
Yes.
was really good, both. I enjoyed that.
Yes. Well,
You're
thank
welcome.
you all so much for that. I just want you to know that we are proud of you. We are thankful that you got to tell this story. younger trans women get to see, what it really was about and where we come from, and how important our legacies are. And I just want to, thank you for taking experiences that were, life changing and very traumatic for a lot of people, and making it into a beautiful work of art. And we appreciate you for that. And we, wish you so many blessings and so much more to come. I hope that you see some really, really big bags,
Yes.
so you could really, really, enjoy life to the fullest. I look forward to seeing much more from you, Carrie. I'm so proud of the things that you are doing now. I hope that you continue to elevate yourself. And you know what? You said that it's sad that it took this long, but no, it's beautiful. You are in exactly where you're supposed to be right now. So just keep striving.
Amen.
And I just want you to know that, like I said, we are proud of you and we are rooting for you, ladies. And again, I am Tia
Hold on one
Carter.
second, because I
Oh, I'm
normally do
sorry.
not interrupt the show. But I
Okay.
wanted to tell you ladies myself, I really truly appreciate you guys for coming on the show tonight. Especially Carrie, because I know her personally. I've seen her on many of the shows, watching and supporting me for the past 3 years. And I'm so proud of you. I would show my face, but I had COVID this week, so I look like shit. But
Aw.
Christy, I appreciate you as well. And this is just, for me, just a stepping stone for my show. And so I appreciate you ladies so much for being on
Oh,
today. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I'm
This
Brandon,
was
you're
such a
so
dope,
proud
guys.
welcome.
I
baby.
really enjoyed this. This was really
Yeah.
dope. I really appreciate you, ladies, sharing your story, because I know a lot of people don't like to, they don't want to, or they're not ready. So it's there's Carrie, I don't want you to think that it's sad. It's all in God's time, and so it's just happening when it was supposed to for you, because He knew you weren't ready then. So He said you ready now. So that's why you're receiving
Yes.
everything you're receiving.
Oh, thank you so much. And thank you, Brendan. Thank you, Tia.
Yes, it's no problem. But I am going to close the show out, and I just want to thank you all for joining us, myself and Radio Raheem and the beautiful ladies of the Stroll. We appreciate this. We can add this now to our archives of historical films about our community, along with things like Paris is Burning. And I love that this film is a reference point for us and younger women to come. Like, you've made history. You'll be there to see forever. This story is going to be shared forever and ever, as a part of our history. And thank you so much for that. And until next time, we'll see you back again here on The Response. Thank you so much, ladies.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Uh,
Oh, that was cute.
Do you remember when we used to walk down here and all the neighbors used to stare at us and we used to be
And we would just be
one
pumping.
way? They would look at us like we were circus freaks, but you could tell they enjoyed it.
The minute I got off on 14th Street, you could hear the clickety-clack of the hills.
The life, the light, the shadows.
We called 14th Street the Stroll, and that was our turf.
Some people choose sex work because they want to. Being a trans woman in the 80s, a lot of us did not have a choice.
People were not hiring people that looked like me.
Trans life in general, it was difficult. I wanted to make people understand the reality of our lives through storytelling.
The one issue today that obsesses New Yorkers: crime.
The trannies were out on the street 24/7. It was really a very bad situation.
I mean, they think I'm out here to murder people instead of have sex with them for money.
We don't know who's who. Everybody's a client.
I actually gave fellatio to a man who was a cop. And after I was done doing his deed, he arrested me.
Whether it was from the police, whether John, there was a lot of violence.
I almost got killed by a John who dragged me for half a block in his car.
We were on the front line with the gay and lesbian community, but you're not doing anything to help me from getting attacked. We knew we were freaks to them.
I can't even believe it. It's like the things we had to do.
The trans community has been in survival mode forever. It's important that we all get an opportunity to thrive.
We fought to be where we are.
The system never gave us resources. We created the resources.
We have always been last. That's not gonna happen anymore.
You owe it to every trans woman before you and everyone after you to keep pushing.
We were pushed out of the neighborhood years ago. I was determined to make a film about the Stroll before we're gone.
Making TikToks? No, we're talking about our lives out here before this became this.
I remember that.
Oh, he said, I remember that. I'm sure you do. What's your name?
You still got it.